9 habits that reveal past trauma. Let's get right into it. Number 1. Fiercely protective of the vulnerable. Have you ever met someone who turns into a real-life superhero the moment they see an injustice? The friend who will step in front of a stranger being bullied, or the coworker who fiercely defends the new intern from unfair criticism? This isn't just about being a good person. Often, this intense protective instinct is a deeply ingrained response forged in the fires of past trauma. When you've experienced profound helplessness, when you've been in a situation where no one stood up for you, your brain makes a solemn vow: never again. Not for you, and not for anyone else you see in a similar position. This response is a form of post-traumatic growth where your own pain is transformed into a powerful shield for others. Your nervous system, having memorized the sting of vulnerability, becomes exquisitely sensitive to it in your environment. You recognize the subtle signs of fear in someone's eyes or the quiver in their voice because you've been there. So, you don't just feel empathy, you feel a visceral call to action. It's less of a conscious choice and more of a reflex. Your past pain didn't break you, it turned you into a guardian, someone who stands in the gap because they know, better than anyone, how terrifying it is to stand there alone. Number 2, masters of reading the room. Some people walk into a room and just sense the vibe. They can tell if an argument just ended, if someone's holding back bad news, or if their boss is in a mood, all without a single word being said. This isn't psychic ability, it's a highly developed survival skill called hypervigilance, and it's often a quiet echo of past trauma. When you grew up in an unpredictable environment where the emotional temperature could change in an instant, your brain had to adapt. It learned to become a master detective, constantly scanning for clues: a subtle shift in tone, a tightening of a jaw, the way someone places a cup down a little too hard. These were the signals that told you whether to be on guard, make yourself small, or get out of the way. Your brain essentially turned into a high-powered social radar, cataloging micro-expressions and non-verbal cues to predict what was coming next. This skill often carries over into adulthood, making you incredibly intuitive in social and professional settings. You can anticipate a client's needs before they voice them or de-escalate a conflict before it even begins. While it's an exhausting way to live because the radar is always on, it also makes you exceptionally perceptive. You're not just listening to what people say, you're hearing the volume spoken in their silences, a skill you learned when your safety depended on it. Number 3, stubbornly independent. Don't worry, I've got it. If that's your life's motto, it might be more than just a can-do attitude. For many who have experienced trauma, particularly involving betrayal or neglect, stubborn independence is a form of emotional armor. When you learn early on that relying on others can lead to disappointment or danger, your brain rewires itself for radical self-reliance. Asking for help doesn't feel like an option, it feels like a risk. It's a quiet declaration that you are your own safety net, your own provider, and your own rescuer. This isn't the cheerful independence of someone who just enjoys their own company. It's a rigid, almost compulsive need to handle everything yourself, from assembling furniture with cryptic instructions to navigating a major life crisis alone. The thought of depending on someone else can trigger a deep-seated fear of being let down or controlled. You build a fortress around yourself where you are the sole person in charge, because in your experience, that's the only way to guarantee your own safety. This self-sufficiency is a testament to your strength and resilience, but it's also a lonely fortress, built brick by brick from moments when you realized the only person you could truly count on was yourself. Number 4, struggle to accept compliments. You did a great job on that presentation. For most people, this is a welcome bit of praise, but for someone with a history of trauma, it can feel incredibly awkward, like trying to wear clothes that don't fit. You might brush it off, deflect with a joke, or even feel a surge of suspicion. This isn't false modesty, it's a deep-seated cognitive dissonance. Trauma, especially during developmental years, can create what psychologists call a negative self-schema core belief that you are fundamentally flawed, unworthy, or undeserving of good things. This belief wasn't chosen. It was often a way for your brain to make sense of a chaotic or painful world. If bad things happen to me, it must be because I am bad. When someone offers a genuine compliment, it directly conflicts with that core belief. Your brain, which loves consistency, doesn't know what to do with this new piece of data. It feels fake, untrustworthy. Sometimes it can even feel like a precursor to a request or a manipulation because your past experiences taught you that kindness often came with strings attached. So you reject the praise to maintain the internal narrative that has, in a strange way, kept you safe. Learning to simply say thank you and let a compliment land is a massive step because it involves rewriting the most fundamental story you've been telling yourself for years. Number 5, avoid asking about family. In a world full of small talk, so what do your parents do? Are you close with your siblings? Are standard icebreakers, but you might notice that a friend consistently steers conversations away from these topics. They'll expertly pivot to talk about your family, their job, or the weather, anything but their own. This isn't because they're being rude or overly private. It's often a calculated act of emotional self-preservation. When your family history is a minefield of painful memories, loss, or complex dynamics, talking about it isn't just casual chat. It's like being asked to walk barefoot through that minefield for someone else's entertainment. Each question, no matter how innocent, has the potential to trigger a difficult memory or force you into a corner. How do you explain an estranged relationship in a light, breezy way? How do you sum up years of turmoil over appetizers? It's easier to build a conversational fortress around the topic. This avoidance is a sign of someone who has learned to manage their emotional energy carefully. They've decided that reopening those wounds for the sake of social etiquette simply isn't worth the cost. It's a quiet boundary drawn to protect a history that is heavy, complicated, and theirs alone to carry. Number 6. Handle bad news too calmly. Picture this. Someone receives genuinely terrible news, a layoff, a sudden breakup, a major setback, and they react with an almost unnerving sense of calm. They might nod, say, okay, and immediately start planning next steps while everyone around them is panicking. This isn't a sign that they're a robot or don't care. It's often the opposite. It's a highly practiced nervous system response to prevent emotional overload. When you've been exposed to significant stress or crisis in the past, your brain learns that a full-blown emotional reaction can be debilitating or even dangerous. So, it develops a kind of emergency breaker switch. When the stress hormone cortisol floods the system, instead of triggering a fight, flight, or freeze response, the brain can sometimes opt for a fourth, lesser-known response, dissociation. It's a way of emotionally detaching from the situation, allowing your logical brain to take over while the feelings are put on hold. This calm is the eye of a storm. The person isn't avoiding the emotion forever, they're tabling it until they're in a safe space to process it. It's a powerful, adaptive coping mechanism that says, I cannot afford to fall apart right now. The emotions will come later, often in private, once the immediate threat has been managed. Number 7. Birthdays feel complicated. For many, birthdays are a straightforward cause for celebration, cake, presents, and cheerful gatherings. But for someone whose past is marked by trauma, a birthday can feel less like a party and more like a complicated annual review. Instead of pure joy, the day might be tinged with anxiety, sadness, or a strange sense of detachment. This isn't about being ungrateful or dramatic. It's because milestones are powerful triggers. A birthday doesn't just mark the passing of another year. It can dredge up memories of past birthdays that were lonely, disappointing, or even dangerous. It can also serve as a stark reminder of what was lost or what was never there in the first place: a stable family, a sense of safety, a childhood free from fear. The day becomes a milestone of survival rather than just celebration. You're not just a year older, you're another year removed from the event, another year you've managed to carry the weight. The societal pressure to be happy and celebratory can feel incredibly jarring when, internally, you're navigating a complex soup of grief, relief, and reflection. So if you feel a strange sense of melancholy when your special day rolls around, know that you're not broken. You're simply processing a year of life through a lens that is deeper and more complicated than most. Number 8. All in or all out in relationships. Have you ever noticed someone who seems to have no middle ground in their relationships? They either idealize a person, putting them on a pedestal, or they completely cut them off at the first sign of a flaw. This black and white thinking is a common defense mechanism born from trauma. When your past has taught you that people can be unpredictable and unsafe, the gray areas of human connection feel terrifying. Trust doesn't come easily, so when you do decide to trust someone, you might go all in, pouring all your hopes and attachment into them. This is the idealization phase. You see them as perfect, a safe harbor. However, because this perfection is unrealistic, any minor disappointment or conflict can feel like a catastrophic betrayal. The perceived threat triggers the defense mechanism, and the switch flips. The person goes from being a savior to a danger, and the only safe response is to go all out to withdraw, create distance, or end the relationship entirely. This isn't fickleness, it's a desperate attempt to protect yourself. Navigating the nuances of a normal, imperfect relationship requires a sense of safety that your nervous system may not have. For you, it's safer to categorize people as either completely safe or unsafe than to live with the anxiety of uncertainty. Number 9. Finding joy in tiny things. While many habits born from trauma are about defense and survival, some are about a profound and quiet form of healing. You might be someone who finds an immense, almost spiritual sense of joy in the smallest, most ordinary moments. The taste of your morning coffee, the feeling of a warm sunbeam on your skin, the sound of rain against the window, the color of the evening sky. These aren't just pleasantries, they are anchors. After experiencing overwhelming, chaotic, and painful events, your brain can recalibrate what it registers as meaningful. Grand, loud, or complicated sources of happiness can feel untrustworthy or fleeting, but these small sensory moments are real, present, and safe. They are moments of pure, uncomplicated peace that you can control and rely on. This isn't about settling for less, it's about developing an advanced appreciation for the foundational elements of being alive. Your capacity for joy hasn't been diminished, it has been refined. You've learned that true stability isn't found in big achievements or external validation, but in the quiet, consistent, and beautiful details of the everyday. It's a superpower of presence, a way of finding solid ground in a world that once felt like it was constantly shaking beneath your feet. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.